The story begins with a terrifying and disturbing scene in a remote village. A large group of villagers has gathered together, and it quickly becomes clear that they are preparing for something horrific. At the center of the crowd lies a woman tied to a strange wooden structure. The villagers firmly believe that she practices black magic and is responsible for all the misfortunes affecting their village. Convinced that she is the source of their suffering, they decide to punish her in the most brutal way possible. Before carrying out the execution, the villagers mercilessly torture the woman. They whip her repeatedly, reopen her wounds, and then rub salt and lemon into them. The pain is unbearable, and the woman desperately begs for mercy. Through her screams, she insists that she is not the reason for the village's problems and pleads with them not to kill her. But nobody is willing to listen. Encouraged by a local shaman, the villagers carry out the execution. In a horrifying moment, the woman's throat is slit, separating her head from her body. However, even after her death, something impossible happens. Her severed head begins moving. The woman's body continues shaking violently, as if she is still alive. Witnessing this terrifying sight, the villagers are overwhelmed with fear. Panicking, they abandon the area and run for their lives. After this shocking introduction, the story jumps forward many years. We are then introduced to a young woman named Alan. Unlike the villagers, she lives in a city and faces a very different set of problems. Both of her parents have passed away, leaving her to handle life on her own. To make matters worse, her father left behind a huge amount of debt before his death. Because of that debt, creditors and troublemakers constantly harass her. However, Alan has learned how to defend herself. Whenever someone tries to intimidate her, she refuses to back down. In one such confrontation, she even breaks a bottle and scares her attackers away, warning them to stay out of her life. Despite her courage, Alan knows that these problems are far from over. The people demanding money will continue chasing her until every rupee of the debt is paid. Realizing this, she becomes determined to somehow arrange the money as quickly as possible. The story then reveals that Alan also has a younger brother. Since she spends most of her time working and trying to support them, her brother is often looked after by her close friends. Among those friends is Gia, a talented athlete who once had a promising future. Unfortunately, Gia was forced to give up her career after developing a serious heart condition. Her heart could no longer pump blood properly, making it impossible for her to continue competing. Doctors informed her that surgery could solve the problem, but the treatment would require a large amount of money. Just like Alan, Gia is struggling financially and has no way of paying for it. As both girls become increasingly desperate, two boys from their friend group come up with a risky plan. They suggest breaking into a wealthy house and stealing money. At first, neither Alan nor Gia wants anything to do with such a dangerous idea. However, as their financial problems continue to grow, they begin considering it as their only option. Eventually, they agree to take part in the robbery, convincing themselves that they will do it only once. Their plan is simple. They will break into a house, steal only the amount of money they desperately need, and then leave. In their minds, this single crime will solve all their problems and allow them to move on with their lives. Unfortunately, none of them realize that this decision is about to drag them into a nightmare far worse than anything they could have imagined. At first, Alan was completely against the idea of stealing. But as her financial problems continued to grow and the pressure around her became unbearable, she finally agreed to go along with the plan. A few days later, one of their friends, Gani, takes the group to a large house that he had been observing for some time. Every Friday, the owners seem to leave the property, making it the perfect target for a robbery. The group spends the entire day watching the house from a distance and carefully studying the movements of the people living there. Once night falls, they finally put their plan into action. According to the plan, Gia stays outside in the car. Her job is to keep watch and be ready to drive away the moment the others return. If anything goes wrong, they need a quick escape route. Meanwhile, Alan, Gani, and another friend quietly enter the house. As soon as they get inside, the three split up and begin searching different parts of the building. Whenever they find something valuable, they secretly collect it and place it into their bags. At first, they intend to take only what they need, but then greed slowly begins taking over Alan's mind. While searching one of the rooms, she discovers a large collection of expensive gold jewelry. Looking at the treasure in front of her, she starts thinking about all her problems. If she takes everything, she can pay off her debts, secure her future, and never have to steal again. Convinced by her own reasoning, Aline stuffs as much jewelry as possible into her bag. At the same time, Ghani wanders into another part of the house where he notices bundles of money lying around. As he approaches them, something horrifying catches his eye. For a split second, he sees what appears to be a severed human head. The sight terrifies him so much that he screams and jumps backward. But when he gathers the courage to look again, the head is gone. Nothing unusual is there anymore. Trying to convince himself that it was just his imagination, Ghani continues moving through the house. Soon, he and Aline head downstairs, hoping to find even more valuables. However, the deeper they go, the stranger the atmosphere becomes. A horrible smell begins spreading through the air. The odor is so strong that it immediately makes them uncomfortable. At the same time, unsettling things start happening around them. Whenever Ghani looks into a mirror, he sees disturbing reflections staring back at him. The visions are so unnatural that they leave him shaken and frightened. Although he tries to remain calm, the fear continues building inside him. Eventually, he decides to stop searching for valuables and starts looking for his friends instead. But as he moves through the house, he finds himself wandering into an area that feels completely different from the rest of the building. There, he makes a horrifying discovery. Several dead bodies are lying in front of him. The corpses are arranged in a disturbing manner, and their lifeless eyes remain wide open. The sight is enough to freeze him in place. As he struggles to process what he is seeing, his attention suddenly shifts toward a young woman nearby. Unlike the others, she is still alive. The girl is tightly bound with ropes and placed in the center of a room filled with strange ritual objects. Numerous candles burn around her, creating an eerie atmosphere. It becomes obvious that some kind of dark ceremony is being prepared. The entire scene looks like something straight out of a nightmare. Confused and frightened, Ghani approaches the girl and asks who she is. The girl introduces herself as Suma. Terrified and desperate for help, she immediately begs them to free her before it's too late. Suma looks completely terrified, and with a trembling voice, she explains what really happened to her. She tells them that the man who imprisoned her inside this house has already killed many people before her. According to her, he was planning to use her in a dark ritual and eventually sacrifice her as well. But for some unknown reason, the ritual has not been completed yet. Hearing her story, Ghani feels sorry for her. He cannot leave an innocent girl behind in such a dangerous place. So, without wasting any more time, he decides to rescue her. Using a knife he finds nearby, he carefully cuts the ropes around her and frees her from the ritual setup. After that, Ghani, Aline, and Suma quickly head upstairs. Ghani immediately calls Gia, who is waiting outside in the car, and tells her to get ready. He says they are coming out with the stolen items and need to leave the place as fast as possible. At this point, all they need to do is escape from the mansion. But then, a huge twist occurs. Before they can leave, they realize that every exit in the mansion has been sealed. The doors, windows, and every possible way out are blocked by thick plant vines. It looks as if the house itself has trapped them inside. Panicking, one of their friends rushes to the kitchen, grabs a gas cylinder, and tries to blast open one of the doors. The explosion is powerful, but even after that, the door does not open. The vines remain in place, as if something supernatural is controlling them. Seeing this, Shweta begins to feel that this is not a normal situation. To her, it seems like a curse. She believes they are being punished because Aline stole more than they actually needed. According to her, greed has brought this disaster upon them. But Aline refuses to accept that. She says God knows her intentions. She did not steal out of greed alone. She took those things because she wanted to settle all her problems once and for all, so she would never have to steal again. In her mind, she was only trying to escape a life that was forcing her into wrong choices. Before their argument gets worse, their other friend stops them. They realize fighting will not help them survive. So, they split into two teams and decide to search the mansion for another way out. While exploring the house, they come across a wall filled with old family photographs. Along with the pictures, there is a large family tree drawn on the wall. As they study it, they notice something shocking. Suma's photo is also part of that family tree. This immediately raises a disturbing question. If Suma is only a prisoner in this house, why would her picture be included among the family members? As they continue looking, they notice another familiar face in the family tree. It belongs to the same woman who was brutally executed at the beginning of the story. This reveals that the woman from the village and Suma are connected by blood. Then Alin and Shweta notice one more chilling detail. The executed woman and Suma share the exact same birthday. This strange connection makes the mystery even darker, and they begin to realize that Suma may not be just a random victim trapped inside the mansion. On the other side of the mansion, Suma and Gani are left alone. At first, everything seems quiet, but then Gani notices something strange. Suma is standing nearby and softly mumbling something under her breath. Curious and confused, Gani moves closer to hear what she is saying. But the moment he approaches her, Suma's eyes turn completely black. Before he can react, she opens her mouth and releases a strange, snake-like insect. The creature crawls straight into Gani's ear. The moment it enters his body, Gani is struck by unbearable pain. He screams and struggles, finally realizing the horrifying truth. Suma was never an innocent victim. Saving her was a terrible mistake. Now that her secret has been exposed, Suma no longer hides her true nature. She reveals her demonic form and warns him that they should never have entered this mansion. According to her, now that they are inside, none of them will ever leave alive. Gani screams in terror, and his friends hear his voice from the other side of the mansion. They rush toward him, hoping to save him before it is too late. But by the time one of them reaches Gani, his condition has already become terrifying. Suma appears in the mirror, torturing him through the reflection. In his panic and confusion, he attacks the person standing in front of him, not realizing that it is actually his own friend. It becomes clear that Gani is no longer in control of himself. The insect inside his ear has affected his mind, making him lose his senses completely. Terrified, he runs away and hides in another room. But the horror does not stop there. Soon, the same strange insects begin appearing around him. They crawl across the room, fall from the ceiling, and surround him from every direction. The insects enter his body just like before, pushing him into unbearable pain. Gani loses control entirely, and in his possessed state, he ends up destroying himself. After this, unable to escape or even understand what is happening, Feta is brutally killed by the horrifying infestation. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, Gia is still waiting in the car. She has been waiting for a long time, but none of her friends have returned. Growing worried, she takes the walkie-talkie and slowly walks toward the mansion entrance. She tries contacting her friends through the walkie-talkie, and surprisingly, she receives a reply in Feta's voice. For a moment, Gia feels relieved. But the truth is far more terrifying. Feta is already dead. The voice answering her is not Feta at all. It is Suma, imitating her voice to lure Gia closer. Suddenly, Suma appears in front of Gia, hanging upside down in a terrifying position. The sight shocks Gia completely, and fear takes over her body. Holding a torch in her hand, Gia tries to defend herself. But before she can do anything properly, Suma attacks her from above. But Gia's attack has no effect on Suma. Instead of getting hurt, Suma simply starts laughing like a mad woman. Seeing this, Gia becomes even more terrified and runs away from the mansion as fast as she can. But Gia is already suffering from a heart condition. Her heart cannot handle extreme stress or sudden physical pressure. As she runs in fear, her body starts failing, and the panic pushes her dangerously close to a heart attack. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Alin sees something equally terrifying. The ghost of her father suddenly appears before her. Shocked and frightened, she runs away without thinking and ends up crashing into a mysterious man.
This man is actually the real owner of the house, and he has finally returned. He immediately understands the terrible situation Aline and Gani are trapped in.
Seeing their condition, he feels sorry for them and quickly brings both of them to one place. There, the man begins performing a ritual in front of them. It is soon revealed that he is not just an ordinary house owner, he is a shaman. Using his powers, he temporarily treats both Aline and Ghani and removes the strange insects that Suma had placed inside their ears. When the insects come out of their bodies, both Aline and Ghani are shocked. The shaman explains that these creatures were created through black magic. Once inside a person's body, they slowly drive the victim insane and make them lose control of their mind. Without Aline and Ghani even explaining everything, the shaman already knows what has happened. He realizes that they have freed Suma from captivity. Furious and frightened, he tells them that they have made a terrible mistake. He warns them that Suma is not an innocent girl. She is extremely dangerous, and by releasing her, they have invited disaster. Not just for themselves, but for the entire town. The shaman then reveals his own past. Years ago, he was given a mission to eliminate people who practiced black magic. Among all of them, Suma was one of the most powerful. But even he was unable to kill her. Because killing her was impossible, he trapped her inside the mansion instead. At first, Aline and Ghani refused to believe his story. To them, it sounds too unbelievable. Seeing their doubt, the shaman becomes angry and decides to show them the truth directly. He performs another ritual and sends their minds back into the past. The story then returns to the same horrifying scene from the beginning of the film, where a group of shamans had gathered to execute the woman accused of black magic. They cut off her head, but even after being separated from her body, her head continued to move. Now, the truth behind that scene is finally revealed. The severed head was not merely moving, it was actually speaking. The woman was truly a witch who had mastered black magic. Through her dark powers, she had made herself almost impossible to destroy. Her body could be killed, but her spirit could not be erased. The shaman explains that she had achieved a form of immortality. Even if her current body died, she could return to the world again through someone from her own bloodline. And that bloodline now leads directly to Suma. The shaman then reveals that Suma belongs to the same bloodline as the witch. Because of that, the witch's soul now lives inside her body. This is the reason Suma cannot be killed like an ordinary human. At best, she can only be weakened, and that is exactly what the shaman had done until now. Aline and Ghani immediately ask how he managed to weaken her. The shaman explains that when he first came to this mansion, he found many followers of the witch living there. They worshipped her and were trying to bring her back to life through Suma, who carried the same bloodline. The shaman killed those followers one by one, hoping to stop the dark ritual. But even after destroying them, he failed to stop the ceremony completely. Before he could end it, the witch's soul successfully awakened inside Suma. Aline then asks if there is any way to kill her permanently. The shaman says there is only one possible way. Somewhere in this cursed place, there is a powerful sword capable of destroying the witch's soul. But the problem is, he has never been able to find it. Just as he speaks about the sword, the room suddenly shakes violently. A powerful supernatural force pulls Aline and Ghani away, dragging them into a strange hidden world. This mysterious place appears to exist beneath the mansion itself. It feels like another dimension connected to the house, a dark realm created by the witch's power. As soon as they enter that world, Aline is suddenly possessed by a spirit. But this time, it is not the witch. The spirit possessing her is the same shaman from the beginning of the film, the one who once tried to execute the witch. A major truth is revealed here. Aline also belongs to the witch's bloodline. Because of that connection, she is the only one who can pull out the sacred sword and use it against Suma. Through Aline's body, the ancient shaman quickly leads her toward the hidden weapon. When Aline reaches the sword, she removes it with surprising ease. The moment the sword is pulled out, Suma senses it from the other side. She immediately realizes that the force capable of ending her has finally been awakened. As soon as the sword leaves its place, the strange hidden world begins to collapse. Within seconds, everything disappears, and Aline and Ghani are thrown back into the same room where they had been standing before. There, the shaman quickly begins preparing for the final ritual. He knows this may be their only chance to stop Suma forever. But before he can complete it, Suma arrives. The moment the shaman sees her, he urgently tells Aline and Ghani to run. Suma, filled with rage, decides to take revenge on the man who imprisoned her for so many years. She attacks the shaman and captures him with terrifying strength. Then, without mercy, she breaks his hand. Blood pours from his arm, making the already horrifying scene even more brutal. Meanwhile, Aline and Ghani run outside, trying to escape the chaos. But as they move through the mansion grounds, they are forced to face another painful sight. They find the dead body of their friend. Seeing her friend's lifeless body breaks Aline even more. In a single night, she has already lost 2 people close to her, and the pain is almost unbearable. But this time, she does not stop to argue, cry, or think too much. She understands that if she wants to survive, she has to keep moving. Aline and Ghani run for their lives, but Suma is not finished yet. Using her dark powers, she begins bringing the dead bodies back to life. One by one, the corpses rise like zombies and start chasing them through the mansion. Among those reanimated bodies is their own friend Feta. Now turned into a monster, Feta attacks Aline. But Aline hesitates because deep down, she still sees her as a friend and cannot bring herself to hurt her. At the same time, Feta also attacks Ghani. Ghani tries to defend himself, but he too is unable to fight properly. The person in front of him may look like his friend, but he slowly realizes the painful truth. Feta is no longer on their side. She has become part of Suma's army. Meanwhile, Suma finally comes outside. Aline sees her approaching and quickly gets into a car, hoping to use it as a weapon. Without wasting a second, she drives straight towards Suma and crashes into her. After that, Aline immediately gets out of the car and rushes to save Ghani. But sadly, she is too late. She cannot save her friend. Before Aline can even process the loss, Suma appears behind her again. Using her supernatural power, Suma once more tries to attack and overpower her. This time, however, Aline has the sacred sword in her hand. Knowing that the sword can destroy her, Suma quickly uses a cruel trick. She changes her face into the face of Aline's dead father. Seeing her father's face in front of her, Aline freezes. She cannot bring herself to attack. Taking advantage of this hesitation, Suma tries to grab the sword. But because it is a holy weapon, she is unable to hold it. The sword burns against her power and falls from her hand. That small moment gives Aline the chance she needs. She grabs the sword again and attacks Suma with full force. First, she stabs her repeatedly in the stomach. Then, with one final strike, she cuts off Suma's head and ends her life. At last, the witch inside Suma's body is killed once again. But the danger is not truly over forever. The witch's soul still carries the power to return through someone else in her bloodline. As long as that bloodline exists, there is always a chance that she may come back into the world again. Sometime later, the story shows Aline and her younger brother after everything that happened. Aline has returned with the stolen money, and using that money, she pays off all the debts left behind by her father. However, the same men who used to harass her return again, trying to trouble her like before. This time, Aline is no longer helpless. To defend herself, she uses the same sword she used to kill Suma. But the moment she uses the sword against an ordinary person, something strange happens. The sword suddenly becomes extremely heavy, as if rejecting her action. Just then, the shaman appears and explains the truth. He tells Aline that the sword is not meant to harm regular people. It is a sacred weapon created only to destroy evil. If she uses it for the wrong purpose, it will not obey her. Aline understands his words and accepts her responsibility. She realizes that the sword was not given to her for revenge or personal fights, but to protect people from true darkness. With this realization, the movie comes to an end.